What's up, everybody? We are back with another edition of the Agents to Owners podcast. And with me today, I have one of the coolest insurance agents in the country, Mr.
Don't
Luis.
oversell it now. Don't oversell it now.
Mr. Luis Leal of Leal Insurance Services out of San Antonio, Texas.
Go Spurs,
Welcome.
go, baby.
Yeah, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me on, Brad.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better and
Amen.
learn about your operation. So, like we usually do, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into the insurance business and bring us up to today?
Yeah, so I've been in insurance now for about 15 years. Prior to that, I was in the banking business. I was, started off as a teller, kind of worked my way up. I was my last position in the banking world was doing home equity loans and mortgages. And man, I was tired of the banking business. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to find a different position in the banking world. And my uncle being a State Farm agent or agency here in town, and we got to talking, and he said, hey, why don't you come help me build my business? And then he would, in exchange, he would help me get my own office at State Farm, and it was an attractive offer, and I took it, and so I spent 2.5 years there with him. In that time, we built his book of business by 50%. He reaped all the benefits of that. He got to travel and do all that fun stuff. And so it was about time for us to start, kind of talking about next steps and where my career was going with State Farm. At the time, State Farm was just kind of inundated with agents in town. And so they told me it was going to take 7 years before I could have my own office, and I wasn't having it. So I left his office May 31st of 2010. And by July 31st, 2010, I had my office up and running. So about 60 days later, I started from scratch with a zero book of business. Didn't take any of his clients. It was sort of a gentleman's agreement that we had. There was, back then we didn't worry about a non-compete or non-solicitation or anything like that. It was just kind of a handshake deal. But yeah, started my agency, and we've been going 12 and a half years strong.
So what led you had the background with State Farm? What led you to want to go as an independent agent?
Well, I knew that State Farm wasn't going to be an option, right? Because, they told me I had to wait a pretty long time. And so the only other sort of option, I didn't want to go with another captive agency. Quite honestly, I saw a lot of opportunity in the independent side, because I was gonna be doing a lot of non-standard business, so a lot of the stuff that State Farm didn't want. I quickly realized that there really wasn't a whole lot of money to be made there. In that market, unless you're charging like an absorbent amount of agency fees,
right?
And I didn't want to do that. And so I changed my focus. Probably about a year and a half in, I started looking at more standard and preferred markets, getting appointments with standard preferred markets. Got hooked up with an aggregator, started getting appointments, and started writing some really good business. And so, we've been killing it in that area ever since.
What network did you end up going with?
So they're no longer actually in business. It was a startup sort of aggregator. It was called oh man, what was it called? I don't even remember anymore. But yeah, they're no longer in business, and eventually I ended up getting direct appointments with the carriers that I had.
So it worked out well, really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it worked out really well. They were a great stepping stone for us to kind of get access into that world, and then go from there.
Yeah, so you've evolved into more of a standard market.
Yeah.
How do you plan to grow Leal Insurance Services in 2023?
Yeah, so this year we're going to focus, I think, on three specific things: data, And by that I mean cleaning up our data and our AMS. Got a great VA who's
Okay.
helping with that. So cleaning up our data in our AMS and CRM people. So we're hiring actively for both producer roles and service people. Getting the right people in the right seats.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I've had a lot of trouble with that in the past. Either bringing on the wrong person for the agency in general, or putting the right person in the wrong seat.
Yeah.
And so that's been a challenge for us, and so we're really going to be intentional about that this year. And then the third thing is merger and acquisition.
Okay.
That's something we're looking forward to in 2023,
Mhm.
to be able to grow and accelerate our growth for our agency.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot of planning.
yeah.
Um, what you mentioned your VA and you touched on it a little bit. What kinds of things do you have your VA doing for you?
Yeah, a lot of back office stuff. So she's chasing down payments, like
Mhm.
mortgage payments that are past due. She will clean up our data in our AMS, making sure documents are downloaded and entered into the correct customer profile. Making sure that we have a CRM and an AMS, and both claim that there's a two-way integration there, but a lot of times there's data lacking from one or the other. So she's making sure that the data is consistent between the two. Um, she'll help us with voicemails that might come through, kind of directing them to the right person in the agency.
Mhm.
Emails, same thing. But yeah, she does some reconciliation for us as well.
Wow.
So she's doing quite a bit.
Yeah, those are some important. How long have you had her?
She's been with me. This specific VA has been with me for about 6 months, I think.
Okay. Well, she's doing a
I
lot.
had, yeah, she's doing a lot. She came to me with some experience already in the agency. She was working at another agency's office through the same company that I use,
Okay.
and so they just kind of moved her over to our office.
Which company do you use?
It's called IA Blueprint. Bo
Okay.
Pilgrim is
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he owns IA Blueprint. He's an awesome dude. I really like him.
Now, do you have a service team currently
Yeah,
outside of the
so
VA? Yeah.
so I've got one service person. She's kind of a hybrid, right? Like she
Yeah.
does sales and service. So she's licensed, and she'll handle a lot of our service stuff. Getting deck pages out, issuing policies when a policy sold from a producer. She will she'll talk to customers about billing issues
Yeah.
and coverage questions, things like that. And of course, she's cross selling as well. So whenever a call comes in about an auto policy, making a change on that, if she notices that we don't have home insurance, then she'll ask about the home insurance.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of one thing about cleaning up our data is we really want to kind of hone in on those customers that are monoline, because we have way
Yeah.
more monoline customers than we really should have or really want.
Yeah. So do
And
we.
so, yeah. And so, kind of cleaning up that data means also that we're going to have an opportunity to really hone in our marketing campaigns for cross sell and other things. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is one of our goals of 2023 is to increase our policies per household.
Yep.
And so as we're kind of talking offline a little bit, that is something we're very intentional. I've tried to get my whole team on the same page of upselling, cross-selling, really being proactive about it, because that's obviously going to be so important in this market. You mentioned the hiring, which I think most of us have had issues with. I know I have, and have made some mistakes. Um, have you put a process in place or kind of used other alternative resources to make sure that we, try to get the right person in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bradley Flowers. I actually stole this idea from Bradley Flowers.
Yeah.
He had a process where what he would do is, so somebody responded to an ad, say for instance, that you had, you saw their resume and you were interested in them. So what you would do as an agency owner is you would send them, like I'll give you a good example. So I had a job posting on LinkedIn. Someone would send their resume. I would send them a message and I would say, hey, I'm interested in a phone interview. If you're interested in the phone interview, then here's my Calendly link, schedule a time that works for you. So in the confirmation that goes out for the appointment, there is action required. There's 3 questions that I want them to answer before the phone interview. And so if they didn't take the time or care enough to read the confirmation email fully, they're already missing a step in the process, right?
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I mean, you eliminate a lot of people that way really quickly. Because as an agency owner, you've got to be very, very detail oriented with policyholder questions, et cetera, et cetera. And when you're not reading an entire email, and you could easily miss a customer's request or whatever it is, I mean, that could really fall back on you. So now there's going to be some grace, right? I'm not going to say that everyone's going to be automatically eliminated if they don't answer the questions, especially if they've got, if they're on paper, they look like a really good candidate. But yeah, I mean, there's been a couple interviews where I've had on the phone where I'm like, hey, did you happen to take a look at that email I sent you with the confirmation? There were some questions on that email. Did you review that? And some, will just flat out lie and say, no, I never got a confirmation email. No, I didn't.
Yeah, right.
And some will say, you know what, man, I didn't read the whole email. I should have. That's on me. And that really talks to the character of the candidate. And so that's one piece of it on the front end. There's a couple of other things that we do to kind of make we've started to slow down on our hiring process. Put more steps in place just to make sure that we're hiring the right person.
And another area that I would hire too fast. You cannot hire somebody based on a 20-minute interview.
That's right.
Foolish. So what areas do you feel you need to improve on in 2023?
I mean, as a whole, I think the customer experience, right? So what I mean by that is like our onboarding process needs to be a little honed in. So we're a pretty small agency. There's only myself, one other producer / service person, and our VA. And so we're all utility players, right? We've all got to be doing everything, sales and service. And sometimes things fall through the cracks. And so being able to stay in front of our customers through automation, that's one way that we're going to be able to kind of close the back door, if you will, from people leaving the agency. So staying in front of our customers, really, really utilizing technology. So we've got a mobile app that we're using, and we're trying to help customers have access to their information on demand, right? They don't have to wait for us to get an ID card by calling the office or whatever. They need to be able to have that stuff on demand. And so just really kind of honing in that overall customer experience is going to be important for us in 2023.
And you talked a little bit beforehand about your just developing an onboarding process. What does that look like?
So we have an AMS, a CRM that we use for that. And so we integrate with our phone system, which also, is voice and text messaging. And it also integrates with our email system. And so we use a series of emails and text messages to onboard the customer, really kind of set them up for success right from the start. So when the policy goes from quoted to sold, they're immediately getting a series of emails that, is going to include their proof of coverage. It's going to send them a text message with the roadside assistance phone number
Nice.
to say, hey, if you need roadside and here are the things that are covered in that, call them directly. So that way you don't have to wait for us to save this number in your phone, remind them those kinds of things. And then also like for auto insurance and even home insurance customers, when they are switching insurance providers, of course, their mortgage company or their lender for their finance company or for their car loan is going to get notification that their policy canceled. So what we do is we try to send out a text message, or our automated system will send out a text message about a week later to say, hey, you might get a letter from your mortgage company. You might get a letter from your finance company. When you get that letter, don't worry about it. Just send it to us and we'll take care of the notification. And so we build those steps in to really just kind of set the customer up for success long term. Remind them about the mobile app, remind them what they need to do in the event of a claim. For both auto and home, we kind of spell all that out in the way of an email. And then just really staying in front of them for that first full year that they're insured with us.
Yeah, that's something I've set up too with an onboarding program. I basically followed Chris Paradiso's method for the first year, but what I've done an extremely poor job of is year 2 and beyond, which is something I'm focusing on this year.
Yeah.
Is creating those automated touches.
Yep.
And we use one area I've struggled in. We use Agency Zoom for our CRM, and I haven't quite been able to put that automation together, which I think a lot of us, might struggle with. And frankly, I've struggled a little bit with Agency Zoom of getting the support to be able to do this. But with we have use Hawksoft for an AMS. Now that they are sort of integrated, we should be able to pull these things out. That's something that we're trying to do in our agency. In your process, in your onboarding process, does that run out through the whole year, and is it every few months? That you send out a text of, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm kind of I'm in the process of trying to hone in that process. That's one of the things that we're working on with the overall customer experience. But so kind of up front, they're getting a lot of information, right? And we tell them, we let the customer know, hey, listen, you're going to be bombarded with emails over the next 10 days, but it's really, really good information that we want to send you to really set you up for success. And I think the customer really appreciates that, because they may not have gotten that same experience from somebody else. It was just like, I bought insurance and that's it.
Yeah.
And so we make it a point when we're, when we get to close a sale, we make it a point to tell the customer, hey, listen, I know you're going to be bombarded with emails. You're going to be bombarded with emails from the carrier and our office. You're going to get text messages, but please pay attention to this stuff, because it's really, really important to be able to set you up for success. And I think the customers, kind of appreciate that. We've got a great open rate on our emails. Okay. Usually they're over 90% open rate. And then so the first probably 30 days, I would say, that they're getting hit with an email or a text message, pretty regularly. And then after that, it kind of slows down, kind of stretches out a little bit. And so, we tweak things constantly here and there. But I think one of my goals especially for the first quarter, is to really sit down and sort of map that out. What does that actually look like? And really just kind of hone that onboarding process in.
Yeah, that's what ours is, kind of over a period of almost the first 6 months. And then we kind of fall off. But switching gears a little bit, you just returned from the One City World Tour. Tell me a little bit about that experience, and maybe give us some of the key takeaways that you had from it.
Yeah, One City World Tour is awesome. If you guys have never been, would highly encourage you take a look at that. Put that on your calendars for next year. They haven't announced the dates yet, but hopefully you'll keep it top of mind. This is the second year I've gone. Last year was in Denver, and this year was in Austin. And so what were my takeaways? So I think I took away. I was looking at my notes actually before we started. And I think my biggest takeaway, honestly, from the conference, and this was kind of a reoccurring theme over both days and over several talks, and that's that the insurance agent is not going away. Um, there's a lot of sort of unease about insurtech companies coming in and replacing agents, or even online companies, coming in and replacing the independent agent. And you know the data doesn't support that. And so it really kind of fired me up because long term, I think I think the agent is here to stay. It's probably going to look different. I think for a lot of smaller agencies, it's going to be a lot difficult, especially if they don't kind of get with the times, right?
Yeah.
Move forward with technology. But yeah, the agent is not going away. That's super exciting. I think a lot of insurtech companies are starting to realize, or have realized, that the agent really controls the relationship between the customer and the carrier. And so a lot of insurtech companies are either starting to embrace the distribution channel of the agency, or when they start, they come out of the gate, offering their products through the independent channel. Also, I think a lot of companies recognize that a lot of insurtech companies especially recognize that they should really come in and support the agency channel by providing, ease of access, ease of business, and just technology that really enhances the relationship between the carrier and the customer, along with, in parallel with the relationship that the agent has with the customer. So that was my biggest takeaway. The agent's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
I think the other kind of theme that really resonated with me was about data, and just having clean data. That clean data means profitability, and that is long term, that's short term, and whatever your plans are for your agency. If whether you're looking at a M&A type of situation, maybe you're looking at leaving a legacy, so you want a kid to take over your agency. The way that that can be set up for success is through clean data, through knowing your numbers, knowing what EBITDA is, knowing what your where your expenses are, right? All of that is really just going to catapult the agency to a much
Yeah.
better position.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Um, so I first really recognize you with your social media. I think you are the meme king.
You said it, not me, my friend.
No, it's super creative. It's funny. It has to draw some attention to you and your agency. Tell me what your social media process is.
Yeah, man. I mean, quite honestly, it's about showing my personality, right? And it's showing that insurance doesn't have to be so lame. Nobody likes to talk about insurance, right?
Right.
And so if you find a way to stay relevant, you find a way to stay in front of folks, sort of just in a fun, kind of nonchalant kind of way, I think people really resonate with that. And it all started for me, I think, at the end of 2021. I got inspired by Hallmark's 25 Days of Christmas, right? I said, well, why don't I do something like 25 Days of Reasons why you should do business with Leal Insurance Services? And so in December of 2021, I did the whole month of December every day, posting a different reason why someone should do business with us. And ever since then, it's just been. I mean, I'm not doing it every day now,
Yeah.
but most days, I find something online, kind of related back to insurance, and post it, and people like it.
They love it. They have
Yeah.
to love it. And has it brought in engagement and
Oh
gotten
yeah,
the people? Yeah.
absolutely. One thing that I've learned is posting it on the agency page doesn't really get
No,
the
not
same interaction that it would if I posted on my personal page. And
okay.
so while the meme is
Yeah.
branded to the agency, it's posted on my personal page, and I get a ton of engagement from it, and it's likes, it's people will comment on it. I have this one customer, she calls me a hot mess whenever I post a stupid meme. And it's all for engagement. It's
Yeah.
not. I don't really. I mean, yeah, of course, the intention is to sell more insurance, but
It's advertising.
yeah, exactly, brand awareness, advertising. And so yeah, I as a matter of fact, last week I won over an account from a friend of mine that is a friend on Facebook. We're sort of acquaintances in real life, but we run in the same kind of circles. Her insurance came up for renewal. Her premium had gone up slightly, and she thought of me because I
Yeah.
stayed in front of her, and she said, why don't I give this guy a shot? She's actually paying a little more by coming over to the office, but we sold her on value. We showed that we took care of her. We showed that we took the time and really put a concerted effort into her insurance program, and so she's bringing her insurance over to our office.
Yeah, and that's just one example of
Yeah.
that brand
Oh
awareness
yeah.
that stay consistent with it over time. You're top of mind. Um, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's creative, just like all the insurance companies. That why do you think
Right.
Progressive has Dr. Rick and all
Right.
these
Right.
other commercials? It's not about hey, we have great liability limits.
Right.
It gets
And I
attention.
think I think to kind of add to that, like everybody's a prospect, right? That doesn't mean that everybody's a prospect to buy insurance from you. It could be it could be people or prospects to come work for you too.
Yeah,
And so staying in front of folks, that's how we got some of these applicants that we're interviewing or that we have been interviewing for the positions that we have open. People were referred to us, and those referrals are important. I mean,
yeah,
90% of the business that we do is referral based.
yeah,
So it works for sure.
yeah, yeah. So well, they're outstanding. And what are looking back? You started as a scratch agency long time ago. Thinking back, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had as a young business owner?
Oh man, that was gosh. So one of the first mistakes I made right out of the gate was I thought I wanted to be out in the community networking, selling insurance, selling the agency, making people aware of who we were, that kind of thing. And I thought that I had to have somebody in the office full time, just basically answering phones. And that was my biggest mistake. I mean, I ran through a lot of my savings account when I first started because I had a
Mm,
full time person in the office. There's different ways to do that now. Routing calls through your cell phone, through a VoIP system. There's answering services. There's VAs. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to kind of look at that now. And so I probably would have done that differently
yeah,
from when I first started.
yeah. What 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 maybe is another piece of advice you might have for a scratch agent or a young agent getting going, maybe
Yeah.
from a growth standpoint, or what they should get into, what kind of tech that they uh, maybe should consider?
Yeah, I think honestly, I mean, the market is super hard right now, and a lot of
Yeah.
carriers aren't appointing scratch
Yeah.
agents. And there's a misnomer, misconception, I think, of aggregators or networks.
Hmm.
And I think finding the right network is super important for a scratch agent. Um, an aggregator or a network that's going to support the agency by providing training, providing the right market access. Figuring out a niche, I think is
Yeah.
important as well. It's super tempting for a scratch agent. I was guilty of this too, of throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah.
And I think if you because the thing is, you can't be a specialist at everything, right? You can't be an
No.
expert at everything. And so if you can really find a solid niche, where you can become an expert, you can become a subject matter expert in that niche, and then refer everything else out, so that you're really just focused in on the business that you want to grow. I think that's super important as well.
You know what I think is huge from what I've been learning with talking some from some of our networks is one that has a community
Yeah.
of some sort
Yep.
that's not just offering you markets, but is able to offer you support. Because I think what most of us have, and I don't know about you, but you get out on your own and you feel like you don't have anybody to go to. You feel like you're on an island.
Right. Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. I've told the story before where prior to finding a group like IAOA,
Correct.
I felt like I was
Yeah.
on an island all by myself. And then by accident, I came across this community, and it was like if I had just walked 100 yards in that direction, there was a big old party going on that island that I thought that
Yeah.
I was all alone on.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think community is huge. Collaboration is huge. Um, Relationships. We're in the relationship business, yet we don't want to build relationships with the people that are in the same
Right.
business as we are. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I told you that's exactly what I did, even for
Yeah.
my first conferences where I
Yeah.
I kept to myself. So, I think for those, ask questions.
Yeah.
And we're shocked, or still, you and I were talking about it, how selfless people have been and willing to help and to share.
Yep.
On touching on, IAOA, I mean, that changed my business.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. I mean, one of the biggest impacts that another agent made on me was at One City World Tour last year in Denver. Um, I was struggling with my onboarding process, and so I met this one agent. Actually, we reconnected because we met at Tampa and at Innovation, and we reconnected at One City World Tour. And after the last day, we had dinner, and we went back to the hotel. And in the hotel lobby, we spent like 3 hours workshopping both of our onboarding process. And I cannot tell you how valuable that time with that agent was, but also that really uninterrupted collaborative time that I spent with that agent, workshopping both of our onboarding processes. I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And so I think it's super important. That community, that relationship with other agents is super, super important.
Yeah. Last question before we get you out of here. What kind of tech are you using to enhance your business and your process?
Yeah. So Agency Zoom is our CRM. Now Certs is our AMS. Ring Central is our VoIP system. I know a lot of people give a lot of flack to Ring Central. Their customer service isn't the best. I think that I'm pretty tech savvy, I guess, and so I'm able to figure out a lot of things on my own. But if not, I've got a pretty decent marketing rep that will I can reach out to get my questions answered. But I use Google Workspace, so for all of our email, our shared drive, all of that
Yep.
good stuff. I just signed on with a new technology called Quote Well.
Oh,
They're going to help us out with our ENS submissions to digitize the applications.
oh, nice.
So I'm really, really excited about that because we do quite a bit of ENS
You do?
business. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Quotewell is who we just signed on with. Actually, we heard about them at the One City World Tour. So we're bringing them on.
Okay.
Gosh, I probably could keep going. I'm missing some stuff, I'm sure, but
I think I've seen you maybe on your site. Do you use Canopy Connect?
oh yeah, we use Canopy for sure. We integrate. We have it embedded in our quote forms.
Okay.
And so we give the customer the option either, hey, you can call our office, you can send us your documents for policy review, or you can fill out our application. And some customers will use Canopy and send their documents to us, and some fill out the form.
Yeah, that's about us too. It seems to be getting a little better with Canopy, but the adoption rates, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's such a great tool.
Yeah.
Such a great tool.
Yep.
Hey man, I want to be respectful of your time. Thanks so much for joining me today. It was good to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, man.
And
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the invite.
yeah, and we'll stay connected. Everybody else, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.